Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up with you.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Kim Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? How in the world are you? This is your boy Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation, and we're here creating content once again here on the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. I go by a lot of monikers. They call me the host with the most, the man with the plan, the guy that can bring the power within the hour, and the dude with the right attitude. And I'm actually recording here from the studio. That's right. It is actually a studio that I found out that a coworker is building. And, I wanted to go ahead and try it out. He said that, I want to go ahead and start recording some stuff here of my own independent stuff, but I also want to see how it would work out as a studio for podcasting. And when he heard about me being a podcaster and so forth, he just invited me, and it was cool because, from where I live, the section of Silver Spring that he lives, it's about like 10 minutes away. So I said, yeah, why don't we just go ahead and make the trip? It's not a big deal. I think it would be cool. And plus, this is a person who I have a lot of respect for, because, he works over at the same day job as I do. And we have a lot of, we just have a lot of good respect for each other, knowing that, he does his thing, I do mine. He does really well with what he does for the company, as well as I do my part, and I'm making my name within the company. So it's a good deal. It was a good deal, and here we are. I brought some stuff with me to utilize for my recording today, and man, I'm liking the operation here. I really am, and it's really cool. When you just have like a room to go ahead and sit down and do your thing and make a recording and so forth, and you have, a nice ambiance of concentration, you can't really complain. Not at all. And the fact that I'm here right now recording and trying to give you folks an awesome content to listen to, I feel at ease. I'm feeling really good. I want to go ahead and start it off with this episode of something that happened recently. And I'm really, let's just put it this way. I was kind of surprised, but at the end of it, I felt really cool and I felt really happy. Let me explain. I have a friend of mine. His name is Chris. He lives near the mall called Arundel Mills Mall, which, if you're familiar with the area, is not too far from the city of Baltimore, of downtown. So, he called me up and he said that, he had a surprise. And, to come over to this address over in, that area, which is called Hanover, Maryland. And I said, yeah, sure. That's pretty cool. I'm not that far from what I have to do. I have like a pet sitting mission that is kind of like near that area. So it wouldn't be a problem. I can just go ahead and drop in for a visit here at this address, and we'll go ahead and do it. Come to the address, find out it's like about 1.5 miles away from Arundel Mills Mall. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, cool. 1.5 miles away from the Arundel Mills Mall. I like it. That's cool. If we ever need to kind of kick it over there, whether if we want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings or see a movie or go over to Dave and Buster's, awesome. We're there. So I go in and, he meets me inside. And I'm like, kind of surprised. I'm like, dude, what is this? And he said, I got something to show you. So we go over inside the building, and lo and behold, did I find out that he actually has a room rented out where he's actually starting to use it as his own private studio. And I'm like, what in the world is this? I mean, he has a desk, he has a recorder, a couple of microphones, some headphone sets, XLR cables, and all this stuff. And I'm slowly putting the dots together. I'm slowly starting to connect it. I didn't really want to assume at first, but I was just really in shock. And I was like, Chris, what is this, man? What do I see right here? If I didn't know any better, I'm thinking that you're trying to do podcasting recording now. And he said, yes, I'm going to start doing podcast recording. And I also want to help other people to go ahead and do podcast recording here, because it's a good market. There's a demand for it. Obviously, people use my equipment and they use a little bit of my services. Obviously, this would be great. And the fact that, it's kind of like our way of just like still being within that world and so forth. And the fact that, maybe, really soon I might actually do the same thing that you're doing, and it's because of you that you inspired me. I just took that leap of faith and I decided to go for it. And, I was really smiling from ear to ear, because I never really thought of myself being an influence. I never did. I just thought of myself as just the guy that was just doing his thing, enjoying life. And if people liked it, that's great. If people didn't like it, that's also fine. I just kept it going and kept moving. And to me, when, I saw the equipment, I saw what he wanted to do and so forth, and I heard, the dialogue about it and so forth, the information, I was very proud. And I said, wow, this is really cool. This is really awesome. And, I just hope that, later on down the road, if podcasting is your calling and you want to do your own podcast, that'll be great. And I will give you as much as support as I can and help you out in any which way that I can. And I'm not going to say it brought me to tears, because honestly it didn't, but it definitely got me all in the feels. And I think that's great when somebody takes influence of what you're doing. For example, if you're an actor and he's inspired by that because he's looking at you and saying, man, if this guy can do it, maybe I can. That's awesome. It's always great to play, that role of being, the influence or the reason. Just like, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine who said, he has a friend that never took martial arts. And because, he's seen the stuff that he's done and so forth, it inspired him to wanting to, formally take martial arts. And he's doing it to this day, like right now, since that time. Obviously, my friend is a little bit different because, he studies Japanese Shotokan karate. And his friend in question decided to go ahead and do something a little bit different in Chinese Kung Fu. But because he was that visual influence, I think it was just one of those things where, like, he was inspired, and I guess he wanted to try to find something for him, and he wanted to go ahead and go for it and just say, you know what, I will be a martial artist. I may not do exactly what he's doing, in that particular style. So I'm going to find something that fits my needs and, something that I feel comfortable in doing and training in. And there you go. And I think that's important, that we have people to be, a role model in that sense, an influencer in that sense, because you never know when you're actually going to build up the next generation of people that want to do what you're doing, whether if you're trying to be a podcaster, or if you're trying to be an actor or a sport athlete or a martial artist. Maybe if you want to go in the culinary field and be a chef, whatever it is, if you are inspired by another person's action and pursuit, then I think that's okay and that you go for it. And the most important thing is that if you go for it, just do your very best and try your best. A lot of people go into, wanting to do something and they set themselves up with false hope and false expectations. If you're going to do said activity, I think that's great. But you do have to be a little bit realistic about what you want to do, how you want to do it, how you want to approach it. And just go in there knowing that if you're doing it for the first time, it's the first time. You're not going to get the perfect results right away. So don't walk in with the expectation that things are going to go 100% correct. I think that's the common mistake that a lot of people make, that, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm using this as an example. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to learn karate, and I'm going to go ahead and be the best karate person ever. I'm going to get everything right. I'm going to understand everything and so forth. And the reality hits where, it probably, you made a lot of mistakes within the first day, the first lesson. And there are some, when they get that type of experience, they just kind of hang it up, which I have to say, if it's something that is a heavy interest, please receive it with an open mind, that you're going in there for the first time and you might make a mistake, but realize it's okay to do that. Just never give up and just do the best that you can. And I think that's awesome that, people tried to do something because they were influenced by a person that they know directly, or a person that they were just inspired by. We hear a lot of common stuff every day, I took martial arts because of, the Bruce Lee movies and he inspired me. Or, I wanted to get into acting because, I saw, Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Sylvester Stallone really motivated me to become an actor and wanting to pursue that hard career. I saw, something on the Food Network where Bobby Flay was making this awesome dish, and it just inspired me of wanting to be a chef. And I think it's incredible, the fact that when we have people that influence us in wanting to, chase that dream or to do something that we think that it's either fun or could be life-changing, that's cool. I have nothing against that. The only thing I can say to those people is hey, congratulations on finding something that you want to pursue, something that you feel like this is going to be a part of you forever. I respect it. I salute you. And I think it's wonderful. Just remember that, do your very best and try to put your best foot forward, and understand that, things are going to happen. If you make a mistake, cool. But if you happen to do it very well, keep that momentum going. Keep that momentum going and keep going forward and never stop. You should never stop on your quest to becoming your very best in anything and everything that you want to do in life. So if that means that you want to be an actor or a podcaster, or if you want to be a chef, or you want to be an artist of some sort, a photographer, or just painting or sculpting, anything with the creative medium, or just, things in general, if that's what you want, go for it, man. I salute you. I say go for it. The green light is there. Just hit the gas and start gunning. Start going for it, and never stop. You know what I mean? Because when you stop, that's the end usually. And there's, it's really hard to come back from that. But, if you were influenced by somebody in some way where you're like, I got to go for it, and all the signs point to yes, go for it, man. Just go for it. So, to my boy Chris, congratulations on your studio. I think it's awesome, and I appreciate you coming to tell me about it and inviting me. I wish you the best of luck, and whatever it is that you want to do, bro, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we will go into the second segment, and then we will be with the Q&A form. So you want to stick around with that, or for that. So do what you need to do. Take a little pause for the cause, but come right back, because the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, we're just starting to actually cook this awesome dish, and we're just gathering the recipes and throwing it all in the kitchen and making it happen. So do what you do, but return right here to this podcast, because we got a lot going on, baby, and we're just getting started. I want to tell you about an amazing store that's really good for all musicians, music enthusiasts, and a whole lot more, which is Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center in Wheaton, Maryland. That's right, you heard it correctly. Since 1958, Chuck Levin's has been actually tearing up the game when it comes to the music scene. And guess what? Since 1958, they have been the store to go to and a must-visit destination for any serious musician passing through our nation's capital. So, if you're actually a person that's in a band looking for a new instrument, such as an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar, a bass guitar, or maybe some drums, if you're a DJ looking for like the greatest DJ equipment, such as turntables and so forth, they got you. Hey, are you actually in an orchestra playing a woodwind instrument, brass instrument, or strings? They got you. They got all the classical instruments that you need. And let's not forget, for all my fellow podcasters, need a microphone? They got you. Need a podcasting vocal track recorder? They got you. They got everything, man. And I'm telling you, it's the best place to go. So if you want to check them out, go ahead and do so, because right here at Chuck Levin's, they're the best. Forget the rest. Mess with the best. Located over at 11151 Veers Mill Road in Wheaton, Maryland. They're open Monday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. If you want to know more about what they have to offer, you can go over to chucklevins.com online, or give them a buzz at area code 301-946-8808. Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center. Like I said before, don't worry about the rest. Mess with the best.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
I had my reservations going up into the next segment here, because I feel like I actually talked about it previously on another episode. However, I feel like if I didn't talk about it, there was a slight possibility that maybe this message would never have gotten out. So, because I'm in the proverbial, statement of being in between a rock and a hard place, I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. And I'm just going to say, you know what, for the lack of the better term, we're just going to go ahead and revisit this, and we'll talk about it in a different way. And, if it's something that you guys have never heard about before, that's good. That's great. That's one less thing I have to worry about. And if it is something that we did talk about previously that we're revisiting again, then I do apologize. But at the same time, it's like, I won't apologize, because I feel like, everything has a meaning and a purpose. And I always want to feed my crowd, feed my listening audience and the masses just something to, leave on their plate so they won't be hungry, or just leave with the thought because they never had, a thought coming into this thing. And now when you come out of this thing, you're leaving with some information, a good thought. So there it is. And I'm just going to explain it like this. Recently, I was in my backyard sitting on the outdoor chair with the outdoor table, and that's kind of like our outdoor picnic table when we have guests and so forth, and we just go on there and we eat, or we just go sit out there and we drink and whatever, and that's really cool. And I noticed that my neighbors, who are El Salvadorian, were outside having a party, like a barbecue party or something. So obviously I walk over to the fence, and that's on my side of the house, and I just greet them and I say hello, how you doing, what's going on? And they were saying, hey, we're having a party, a barbecue party, we're gonna have some food and some refreshments. Would you like to come over and check it out and, meet some of our extended family members that came over for a visit and just, hang out? And I graciously accepted. I said, yeah, absolutely. Mainly because of the fact that, when you tell me that, there's food and there's beverages like beer or soda or water or juice or whatever, it's not really hard for me to just, walk over there and collect. So I went over there, shook my neighbor's hand. I met all of his family members and so forth. Some people that are older, some people that are like the newer generation. And it was wonderful. It was great. And I introduced myself, and it was great to, finally get a meeting of people that I've never met before in my entire life. So as the party progresses and the day progresses, some of the younger generation, came over and they approached me and they said, hey, we've heard a lot of things about you because of, I guess the relation is our uncle. Our uncle was telling us all this and that, but, can you confirm what it is that you do? Because, we really don't know for sure whether if it's true or not. And I said, sure. I told them that, I'm a martial artist, being a third-degree black belt in the art of Muay Thai style of Taekwondo. I'm a local film actor, and I host my own broadcast. I host and I broadcast my own podcast. That's a tongue twister for you. So, yeah. There was this one gentleman, young guy, that came out and he just said, wait a minute, you host and broadcast your own podcast? You have your own podcast show? And I said, yeah, I have my own podcast show, and it's something that I enjoy. I love the creativity value of it. I like the fact that it's it's its own art form, and I like the fact that with podcasting, at least in my eyes and through my eyes, there's no rules. There's no rules at all. It's just like, you do what you do, and it's lovely and it's wonderful. And, everybody has their own path and own style when it comes to podcasting. So, I embraced it and I just went with it. And it was really cool because, we were talking a lot about podcasting and so forth. And one question that he asked me that inspired this was, basically, he asked about, I know that in podcasting you have guests over, a lot of podcasters do. And I said, yes. I mean, I do try to have guests over on my podcast show. Then he just sprung the question. He was like, why do you bring, guests on your podcast? Like, what is it in it for you? What is the purpose? Do you see anything, about that? Any benefits? And at that point, he got me. He got me with a real good question, and I really respected that. And I said, dude, that's a really good question. And at that point, I just continued on, and I'm going to share with you guys what I said to him, which was very simple. When I bring a person into my podcast as my special guest. It's because I really want to know the person. The person to me is a perfect fit for what I need out of my podcast show. So, example, because this podcast is about people of creativity, people that, do acting, directing, people that do music or they're chefs, people that do different types of creative art, like, visual or analytical or things of that nature, or, they're martial artists or stunt people or whatnot. That deals with a certain level of creativity. And because they're people of creativity, and this is a podcast that talks a lot about that creativity and so forth, it was just a perfect fit. And it's just a great chance and an opportunity to get to know them, to know their background of where they came from, to learn about, that, let's say, for example, if I'm interviewing an actor, the very first time that they saw acting, and the day that they actually locked in and said, I want to pursue acting, and explain why they locked in and wanted to do acting. Today's small person, today's unknown person could literally be tomorrow's next big thing. And I'm going to give you a prime example of that. In my podcast, the season has actually escaped me, and I'm going to try to find it while I'm talking to you guys. I had a young lady that was on my podcast show by the name of Atenna, and Atenna is an intelligent, beautiful young woman who is very, very popular and very, very talented. She is a singer straight out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And to me, when I met her through social media, and I got to know a little bit about what she can do and so forth. I've heard her vocally, and my God, like, I just knew right then and there, I need to find a way to interview her, because she is so good. She is really, really good. And the fact that, she just can do that at will, and the fact that she's really, really good, I had to go ahead and interview her. I really did. And I thought to myself, if I didn't get a chance to interview her, I might regret it later on, And it's just great to hear her story, and to just, learn a little bit about her and what she's done, what she's trying to do, and so forth. And I think that's incredible. I think it's really incredible. I honestly, coming into this interview, I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know so much about her. But coming out of it, I feel like, wow, this person, this individual, Atenna, she's amazing, and I think that, I know it's a little bit far-fetched for me to say it, but I think that, if she goes the path the way that she does, I honestly think that she probably could be the next Demi Lovato. Like, really. I mean, vocally, I think that she can belt it out, and she really can do a lot of great things. You know what I mean? And it's awesome. It's really, really awesome. And I think that, if she really puts her mind to it and sticks with it, she might get there. And that's why I feel like, with having guests like that, we're interviewing the unknown. Nobody even knew who she was worldwide, at least not outside of, Brazil, let's say. But now that, I had her on my podcast show, that gave her a little bit more of an exposure, you know what I mean? Like, outside of Brazil. And that's a powerful tool to have with this type of platform. And, if Atena was here right now, I would still say that she's amazing. And, I think that she has the talent. And I think she has the potential to go all the way, which I hope she does. So that's why I do it. I just want to, interview people that have creativity, and talk about that, get that out of the limelight, and have people understand it. And that could be the platform, that could be the thing that could get them closer to where they need to go. Because when you promote people, people will listen, people will hear it, and people will get interested. So that's why I invite guests over to my podcast. Now, the only thing that I forgot to mention is that, it's great that I interview people that's, a part of my cause, but at the same time, they got to have real good energy. They have to have a good vibe. I would like them to have a real cool as a cucumber attitude. I don't want any, issues or drama or just, bad reputation that I hear about them that would make me feel uncomfortable. At the end of the day, I've had offers of people would want to come over to my podcast. Some of them I had to turn away because, I just felt really uncomfortable with them because of the certain energies and so forth. But that is probably going to be for another episode. We're not going to go too much into that. And that's my answer that I gave to that young man. And he learned a lot that day, because I think that he really wants to be a podcaster in his own right. It's just right now, the financial situation's a little tight right now for him, and rightfully so. I mean, he's only in high school, you know what I mean? But the fact that he's dreaming about it and he's thinking about it, that's a good start. And I wish him well, and I hope that if he decides to go through this journey, that he does it and he knocks the door down, and he starts carving his name out there on the wall of great up and coming podcasters that are trying to make it out in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we will do the greatest segment of them all, the Q&A segment, question and answer. You ask them questions and I will answer it. So do what you need to do, and and take 5, but come back, because the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is about to go ahead and launch off into outer space, and you don't want to miss the blast off. In life, we all want to have great health and excellent physical fitness. However, it's never given, only earned. That said, if you want to go to a gym that will help you to get there, then look no further than Kicked Up Fitness at National Business Parkway in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Their mission at Kicked Up is to provide the ultimate functioning training facility that focuses solely on your success, with a diverse team that's highly qualified and dedicated to taking your fitness goals to the next level. Kicked Up also offers a variety of group classes and personal training programs that provide something for everyone, regardless of your fitness level. They believe in working hard, achieving results, all while having fun. So come visit their facility in person, which is located at 114 National Business Parkway, Suite 100 in Annapolis Junction, Maryland, 20701. Now, if you see my friend Sean Queen, who's the owner of Kicked Up, tell him that Benny Chow of Miscalculated sent you, and he'll hook you up with a complimentary 7-day pass just to try it out. Need more info? Give him a call. 410-888-9066. Email them at kufitnessnbp@gmail.com or visit them at their website at www.kufitnessnbp.com. Kicked Up Fitness. Never given, only earned.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Thank you for the return. We have reached the point of our episode where, it is the end of the road. But before everything, and before we really get to it, let me just give you the usual disclaimer. The Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is asking for help on a voluntary basis to anyone out there that would like to assist our podcast show by the ways of sponsorship and or financially donating to the podcast show to help improve the quality of our podcast and make it better. All proceeds of money that we raise will go towards getting more equipment and better equipment that we need, such as microphones for our in-studio guests, XLR cables for those microphones, headphones for our in-studio guests, and even a MacBook Pro, which is the official computer of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience that helps create great episodes and make it the best that it can be with the top 100% quality that it can be. You know what I'm saying? That being said, whatever you can donate, no matter what the amount is, would help, and we definitely would appreciate it. So, inserting the joke that if you wanted to donate $5 million, which I don't think anyone would donate that, but you never know, we would appreciate it. Hell, we would even make you an executive producer. To even as little as $5, every little bit helps, and we would appreciate your assistance in any which way that we can. You can make a donation at the following. If you have PayPal and Venmo, you can donate that way. Just go ahead and donate through our tag name at Kim Hoang MD Actor. That's once again at KIMHOANG MD ACTOR. And yes, if you only have PayPal as a website on your computer, you can use that too. Also, you can use Cash App. You can go ahead and donate to our tag name, $ Kim Hoang MD Actor. Once again, that's the $ Kim Hoang MD Actor. Last time, $ KIMHOANG MD ACTOR. And ladies and gentlemen, this is it. We have here with us the Q&A form, question and answers. You ask the questions and we will answer it. Normally, we've been answering 7 questions, but we have been generous and we have been taking bonus questions. So for today, we have usual 3 bonus questions, which makes it a grand total of 10 questions. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it right now. I'm excited and I hope you are too. Let's get it cracking. Question number 1. Kim, which legendary martial artists have you met personally? Joseph from Fort Myers, Florida. Well, there's 2 that stand out, Joseph. One that I've known for quite a while, and the other one I met recently when I was over in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for that martial art tournament that I was in that I talked about over the last episode. First one that comes into mind, the gentleman that I've just recently met was Frankie Calderon. Frankie Calderon is a Taekwondo grandmaster who was a student of Joe Hayes. Joe Hayes was a student of Richard Chun, who was also related to the late Grandmaster Ki Wang Kim of Washington, D.C., who is a Taekwondo, or was a Taekwondo Grandmaster who passed away in 1993. Meeting Mr. Calderon was quite an honor and a pleasure, and he just kind of reminded me of like somebody that I grew up next door, just a real nice guy and really laid back, and he was just talking about life and in martial arts and so forth. And he's one person that I would love to get on my podcast show and to interview him. And I think I did reach out to him recently. I just haven't heard any answers or replies. So hopefully he'll get back to us. The other one is Mike Warren of Washington, D.C., who actually was a student of the late Grandmaster Ki Wang Kim, based out of Washington, D.C. Mike Warren I've known for years. He went to all of my black belt examinations. He actually blessed and tied my first degree black belt and my third degree black belt. And just knowing him and talking to him and so forth, it's just, he's just a real nice guy. He's a cool guy. I've met certain martial artists that aren't really nice, and their attitudes are really rotten, but Mr. Warren is really cool. He is quite the gentleman. He is quite the loving and giving person, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's just an amazing person, especially with the list of accomplishments that he has accomplished throughout his career, in the martial arts in general, especially in martial art tournament competition. His accomplishments read like a presidential resume. It's quite impressive. So, question number 2, Kim, what do you think about Jean-Claude Van Damme? Elaine from Alpharetta, Georgia. Elaine, I will say this. I did like Jean-Claude Van Damme at one point when he came out in I think like his biggest following was probably in the late 80s going into the 90s. I mean, that dude was incredible. He was like really young looking, great martial arts that he was doing, great flexibility, really strong, you know what I mean? And so forth. And I have to admit, some of his movies like Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Double Team, what else was there? That was there was a movie about that, he was a twin, and I think it was called Double Impact. That was a pretty good movie too. But now it's just like, unfortunately, some of the stuff that he does martial art wise, it's predictable. Some of the movies, it's just like, it's kind of like the same thing where, action and like, being the good guy and so forth. So, to me, it's like he lost a little bit of credibility. But I will give him his respect for what he's done for, Hollywood film of action, especially martial art films, and, what he has done for the martial arts, at least to contribute in his own way. So, question number 3, Kim, do you like Alexa or do you like Siri? Roland from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Wow. Because I am an Apple person and I love Apple products, I like Siri. I mean, Alexa's really good because, all the Android, needed to make something of a counterpart. And I know that, Alexa is pretty popular with the Google phones and the Samsung phones and stuff like that. But I feel like Siri has been perfected very well, and there's hardly any glitching with her. And I feel like she does pretty well, at least for what I need to do. So I know that's not probably going to be a popular answer with some people, and that's fine, but I'm team Apple. I love Apple products. I love Siri, who is a part of all Apple devices. So yeah, it's awesome. It's really, really cool. Let's see. Question number 4, Kim, how do you stay motivated? Tracy from Columbia, Missouri. Good question. Tracy, I have to say that, how I stay motivated is that I try to keep myself in a positive frame of mind every day. There are days where I do face a lot of negativity, whether it be from people that I know, like family members, certain people that are, quote unquote friends, maybe some work colleagues, or just people in general. And I know they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I just try to stay motivated knowing that their negativity is kind of like my positivity. You know, if people are being negative towards you, I've always thought it's because you're doing something right and they're not. So therefore, I feel like, okay, well, if you're yelling at me for whatever reason, it's because you're not doing the things the right way and I am. And because you're looking at me because I'm doing all these right things, I'm kind of like your easy target. And you know, I just try to stay again to the positive aspect of life, never the negative. And if people try to give me like negative stuff, I just try to look the other way and pay them no mind, or just kind of eliminate them from my life and just not pay them any attention anymore, because I don't like to surround myself with negative people. And it's important for me to stay positive at all times. Very important. Question number 5. Oh, I wonder what the hell that noise is. Question number 5. Kim, what do you think about the various streaming devices that are out there on the market, loaned from Bakersfield, California? You know, we are definitely in the technology phases, and I think it's great that we have a lot of, you know, devices. You know, we have Apple TV, we have Roku, we have, you know, the Google Fire Stick, and, you know, other streaming devices from Google and stuff like that. And I think it's definitely come a long way, and it's great, it's convenient, and I like it. You know, I think it's incredible. I mean, me personally, again, being the Apple guy that I am, I love Apple TV because I think it works for my purpose. You know, if I need to show something from my iPhone directly to the Apple TV, it just works better that way, and I love it. Or if I just need to go ahead and transfer something wirelessly from my MacBook to my Apple TV and show it like on, you know, the other TV that it's connected to, you know, I can do it that way. So, I mean, again, you know, I think it's great. I am a big fan of Roku. I think they have, you know, good things and so forth, and that would definitely be the second device I would have if, you know, I had to choose. And then just for, you know, what it's worth, the Fire Stick, you know, Google and stuff like that, I definitely would go for it. Question number 6, Kim, do you think that playing video games is bad for anyone and everyone? Megan from Bellevue, Washington. Megan, I would definitely say that, you know, it's all in moderation, you know. I don't think that video games playing is bad. You know, I think it's really cool because, you know, it definitely helps with hand-eye coordination. It also helps out with people with anxiety, so it gives them like an activity to kind of work out their frustration from, you know, whatever it is that's going on in their lives at the present moment, to, you know, releasing that negativity through video game playing. It also helps out in the sense of, like, you know, helping out to develop strategies and, you know, thinking about certain things outside of the box analytically. I can understand why people may have a concern about, you know, well, if you play video games a lot, that's all your focus, and they are correct in that sense. But again, you know, it's not all necessarily bad, and I think that people who kind of think that, I think they do need to have a reality check. And for those that just, you know, that are for it, but they want to kind of control playing time, I do respect that, and I get that. So, you know, I would just say that, you know, honestly, there's so many things in life to worry about, and I think video game playing isn't one of them. I don't think it's like the total enemy. So, yeah, you know, that's where I lie. Question number 7 before we get to the bonus round. Kim, Chili's or Outback Steakhouse? Corey from York, Pennsylvania. Damn. That's really a good question, but if I had to choose one between the other, I probably would go Chili's, just because I like some of their food a little bit better, like the cheesesteaks and the burgers. Even, like, you know, they have like a pasta Alfredo that I think that's pretty decent. I'm not saying that, Outback is bad, but I don't really eat a lot of steak over at Outback Steakhouse unless I go to like an actual steakhouse. You know what I mean? Their bloomin' onion's pretty good. I think it's tight. And, that's all I have to say. I just wish that Chili's, there's some Chili's that we had over here in Maryland that unfortunately closed down. I think the only one that I know that's in existence as of right now is the one next to BWI Airport. And, I definitely would make that travel to go over there and eat there and so forth. But, I don't try to go there every single day. So, that's what it is. Now it's the bonus time, ladies and gentlemen. Question number 8. Kim, is there something that you look forward to seeing as a series on a streaming service or a movie? Catherine from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. If it's a movie, I can't wait to see the new Mortal Kombat 2 movie. I think that's really going to be awesome, and I just can't wait. As well as there's going to be like a new Street Fighter movie that's coming out that features WWE superstars Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. So I'm really excited about that. If we're talking about a series that's coming on a streaming service, I just found out that Hulu will actually have kind of like a newer series of Malcolm in the Middle. It's a continuation called Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair, which basically it brings that Malcolm is grown up. He has a daughter, he has a girlfriend, and he's been away from his family for a long time because he just wants to kind of separate himself from his family, from his family, like his parents and his brothers and so forth. And he's trying to kind of like have his daughter and his girlfriend not be there because he's afraid that their shenanigans and their personality is going to have a negative effect. And I just really like to see all the original actors that had their characters, like Frankie Muniz playing Malcolm. We also had what else was there? There was like the guy, his brother. He's the brother of the guy that played what was it? Hyde from That 70s Show. His brother, I think his name is Chris Masterson, I think. It's drawing a blank right now. He actually played Francis, the older brother. So I felt like, I liked Francis, and I always rooted for him because, he was the character that was like the screw up, but it was the screw up you were like rooting for because you just wanted something better for his life, So, yeah, I can't wait for, Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair. That's going to be a good one. Question number 9. Kim, what do you think about the upcoming WWE WrestleMania event that's going to be happening in Las Vegas? Michael from Peoria, Illinois. And Michael, I think this WrestleMania this year is going to be awesome. Kind of sucks that it's going to be on ESPN because I was really looking forward to. I got used to it being on Peacock TV because I thought it was really cool. And unfortunately, I don't live outside the United States, so if I had Netflix and I was outside the United States, I could probably get it, for free, all the PLE events that WWE has. But until then, still on ESPN. I'm not really, a big fan of that because you got to pay $30 a month. But that's all I have to say. I'm not really liking that. So, but other than that, though, I think the WWE WrestleMania card is shaping up to be a real good thing. I can't wait to see what happens. I think it's one of those things where it's the Super Bowl of professional wrestling, and the fans win. It's just something incredible, and we look forward to it. Last question, then we're out. Question number 10. Kim, what do you think about martial art beefs, rivalries. Example, like if you were under the same teacher and you broke out on your own, and then there's like a whole beef or just like hate. What are your opinions? Rebecca from Ellicott City, Maryland. Yo, Ellicott City, what is going on the ones and twos? Rebecca, I really think that, with martial art beefs or rivalries or hate or anything like that, it really sucks and it's unfortunate and it's really unnecessary. I've heard stories about a lot of students being under like one master, and when the master died or whatever, they obviously go their separate ways and they just teach what they feel like is the way that the master had taught them. Some of them, like, I've heard, great things, like, that teacher was pretty good and is pretty much the spitting image of that late master, while other people, are not good at teaching that material, or they don't know how to explain it, or they just come up with a rotten attitude to that. I just say, like, guys, we need to do better. It's unfortunate that people, you hate this person because, when that master was alive, he was just, a certain way, and now that he's, on his own doing his thing and you're not agreeing with it, to me, I'm just like, dude, you kind of have to let things go in that respect, because every one of those students that became their own teacher and started teaching the students the way of that master, they did their own thing. They're out there trying to pass on the art and trying to teach it the way that they were taught, and just give the next generation something to hold on to, like they had they themselves trying to hold on to the teachings of their old late master. So I think, honestly, for a lack of a better term, it is bullshit. I really wish people would stop about it. If you really have that beef and it's really that serious, I always thought, unless you tried to kill me, and end my life, that's when the beef is really going to be a situation. But other than that, though, I feel like, if there's nothing that can't be solved without, like, maybe like working it out, having a conversation, and just trying to work past it. At least that's how I feel. That's it. That's the end of the story. I'm glad that we did it, and it was wonderful. And let's get to the closing chapters. You can find me on Facebook. Look me up under the search box under the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Find me and follow me. We appreciate it. We're also on Twitter and on Instagram. You can go ahead and find us on our tag name at TKHPC Experience, all in one word, lowercase letters. Follow us and we'll follow you back. We are on 6 podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Please like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast on all of those podcasting platforms. If you have Spotify, please give us a 5-star ranking, and if you have Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star ranking and a great written positive review, because the more times that we have that on those respective podcasting platforms, then our podcast will be thrown over to the front of the line, and somebody might notice it, and it could be a situation where, like, somebody would say, hey, this is the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. I heard about this. Marianne told us about it. Maybe we should like, follow, and subscribe to it. Yes, please do. And also, at the same time, share it with everybody that you know on all the social media pages like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, now known as X, even, TikTok, Snapchat, all that stuff. Or, tell people in person that like your friends, your family members, your co-workers, because we call this, brand awareness. And brand awareness is important, because when you share, that means you care. And the more times that you actually share with people, they may be interested in listening to the stuff that we put out there, and maybe their friends might be interested. Maybe they're looking for a new podcast to listen to. Well, this could be that new podcast. You know what I'm saying? Last but not least, if you want to be a special guest on our show, a guest host, if you have any constructive criticism, if you have any questions for our Q&A form that I normally do on my solo episodes, please email me at the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience at gmail.com. Whatever the subject is, put it on the subject box, and then in the email, just go ahead and write it out, do what you need to do, and then after that, when I get the email, I will email you back. It'll probably take me about maybe 2 days at the most, but I'll definitely get back to you, no problem. You know what I mean? So that's it. That's all. I want to thank everybody for their love and support. We definitely appreciate it, and the fact that you continue to love us and show love for us, and just showing us that you're in it to win it like we are. We appreciate it. We thank you, and we're going to keep doing it till we can't anymore. You know what I mean? And please be safe out there. Do the right things in life. Doesn't help us if you actually do wrong things and get buried in a pine box and get buried 6 feet under. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be happy because you deserve it. We think that you're worth it, and anybody else that tells you otherwise, they can go ahead and bite the big one for all I care. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, for the one time here over in the studio in Silver Spring, Maryland, this is your boy Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation, the host with the most, the man with the plan, the guy that can bring the power within the hour, and the dude with the right attitude, saying thank you, appreciate you, we love you, thank you, and we'll do it once again on another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. It's been real, y'all, but I gotta go. Peace.